If you've been curious about the digital nomad life, how it really works, and whether or not you can make it happen for yourself, then today is the episode for you.
Your someday starts today. It's time to explore and test the newest science, methods, and trends for creating a life you love with your host, Tanyamfk. Welcome to My Designed Life.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to My Design Life, where we learn and test the latest science, tips, tools, and strategies for you to create your best life every day. You can find us on YouTube, Facebook, and Instagram at My Design Life Show and at Tanyamfk and on the My Design Life Show podcast. I'm your host, Tanya Marie Figueres-Kreisinger, more easily known as Tanyamfk, and you are here to learn not only how to create your best life, but how to live it now. And that's just what we're going to do. So my guest today is someone that I connected with when we found out that we had both trekked northern India by motorcycle. A man of curiosity and many talents, he has a master's in technical engineering from Boston University and has designed machines for Disney, Universal Studios, Wynn Casinos, Beyonce, and more. Living the past 4 years in his 1970s sailboat, he has spent time as an Alaskan wilderness guide, software developer, cross-country trekker, while creating a string of successful businesses along the way, such as Funnel Mappy, which is a drag-and-drop software that visualizes the customer marketing journey, Fire Builders, a daily accountability service for coaches and consultants. And if that wasn't enough, he is also the host of his own podcast with the same name that goes live 6 days a week. But he doesn't have this life because it was all set for him. It's because he has said, yes, let's find out how, and why the hell not, more than most. So please welcome wandering professional, Josh Koerpel. Welcome, Josh.
Welcome to My Designed Life.
Hey, it is so great to be here, and what a friggin' introduction that was. Thank you so much. I'm honored.
Well, I am really excited to dive into this, Josh. You know, in my intro, I use the term digital nomad because there's so much interest and curiosity in what that lifestyle can bring. And people are really intrigued by what that looks like, but they also quickly dismiss it as a pipe dream or something that really just the millennial or Gen Zs kind of do, right? But I know firsthand after doing this for 4 years with my husband and toddler in tow that this can really be done by anyone. And I think a big part of what makes it seem so untouchable is because the term digital nomad itself is not a job, it's a description. But you're here today to demystify this and give us a bit of a roadmap on how to get here, right?
That's right. Yeah, that's right. I'll do my best anyway. It's a crazy lifestyle description, the digital nomad thing, because you're right. It is not a job. You can get paid to be a digital nomad,
Right.
but you just have to figure it out for yourself. And there's a lot of uncertainty there. And I feel like people get a little apprehensive about that.
Yeah, yeah. I think they really see it and go, well, like, what do you do? Or I can't do that. And I know in my own experience, it's a lot of like, well, that sounds really nice. It must be nice. And you're like, well, it is. You can do, anyone can do it. Like I didn't
Exactly.
have to become independently wealthy, but I had to make a choice, right?
Exactly. And that choice, that choice is key. You know, because ultimately being a digital nomad forces you to rely on yourself, you know,
Mm-hmm.
and that can be a scary thing. You know, it's not easy sometimes when your, you know, income is fluctuating and it's feast or famine and you have to hustle. You feel like you're hustling all the time. It's much easier to just have that nice stable income and not have the stress that comes along with it. But to be honest, in my experience, and I'm sure yours as well, the the struggles and the stuff, you know, how hard you have to work to get things going. Well, the benefits of that type of lifestyle, being able to see the world and meet new people and constantly be inspired and have an opportunity to be creative, those benefits completely outweigh all of the other, you know, the stressful times. So yeah, I
Yeah.
love it. I love it, and I'm really grateful that I've been able to make it work.
Right. Well, and one thing I have to say too is that I think what people are seeing now more than ever is that the stable jobs aren't guaranteed either. You know, I think we're
Yeah,
going through a change in the economy right now where, you know, anything can change at the drop of a hat. That, I mean, no one, you know, you may have planned for a lot of different things in life, but I would say most people did not have a contingency plan for a global pandemic in their situation, right?
In the tool bag.
In the
Yeah.
tool, exactly. And so these jobs, and I by no means, am against the 9 to 5. I think there's a beautiful, we all need people to work together, right? And there's some people that are like so fantastic at coming up, showing up, and doing that job, and having that consistency and stability is beautiful. But it's also things that can be just as unstable or stable in, I think, both situations. You can live in this digital nomad world and actually create a level of stability. You could go to the same places, visit same areas, start to become your kind of community in there, as just as well as you can become unstable in this job. But you don't know day to day how well the business is doing, or if they're going to lay people off, or if whoever worked in CD jewel cases back in the day,
Right.
the world changes. There's not stability there. So I feel like if we can see it that way, then all of a sudden this idea of digital nomad becomes less strange, right?
Yeah, I can see that. I mean, I can see that the reality is for people that everyone feels a level of apprehension about their situation, and you're going to feel that regardless of where you are and what you do. If you are just going to a 9 to 5, which, by the way, that's perfectly fine. I did the 9 to 5 for a long time. I know a lot of people that do that, and I'm in no way bashing that lifestyle at all. Like, I have the utmost respect for people that do that. And honestly, some people are just hardwired that way. Like, that's what they want, and that's awesome.
Yeah.
And but with regards to that type of lifestyle versus like a more seemingly free lifestyle where you're just jaunting around the world and going to coffee shops and working from your laptop and stuff, either way, it's going to be challenging. There's going to end up being some challenges that you end up facing, that apprehension. And it's just kind of a question of which one do you want to deal with? Like,
Yes.
and if you want to deal with the idea that you have a stable life, you have a stable 9 to 5 job, but you don't quite feel as fundamentally fulfilled, right? That's going to cause a little bit of apprehension. Or on the flip side of that, like, I can personally attest, and again, I'm sure you can too, like, some of the challenges that you meet on the road, some of the things that the problems that arise that you never really thought of before, like working on the boat, for instance. Just getting connected to the internet was a massive challenge.
Oh my goodness.
let alone going out and getting something to eat, like making something to eat while it's raining. Like, everything on the boat's dynamic, it's always moving, and so there's just challenges there. While I was on the road doing the motorcycle trip, just finding places to stay, right?
Yeah.
Like, all of this stuff that you kind of take for granted when you're not doing the digital nomad thing, it's that all adds to the stress. Like, it all adds just to the complicated logistics of what it is. It's not all beaches and laptops and Mai Tais.
Yes.
So it's a balance. Again, it just kind of depends on what type of person you are, and that level of self-awareness, I think, is important for everybody to attain, regardless of whatever career choices they have.
Absolutely. You're just choosing what set of chaos you want to deal with. Right?
Yeah, exactly.
It really is. And I love that we kind of went into that, because I think there still is, the truth is starting to come out a little more when we have these kind of Instagrammers who are like, oh, behind the scenes. But for the longest time, all the pictures were the laptops on the beach and the Mai Tais. And I remember seeing a picture just not that long ago, and it was one of those typical at the pool, my work view kind of thing. And it's like, it's really nice. Yes. And then at the same time, you step back and you're like, but you're still at a pool with your laptop. Like, let's just be honest there for a second. Like, you have a nice view, but you still have to work. And that's the thing, like, we need to remember, like, sometimes it'd be nice to just be at the beach and not have the laptop, and
Totally.
I think what I seen and hearing, and I know a lot of your messaging in what you've talked about in the past, is that it really is about work-life balance. And that can happen in the 9 to 5. So if you're working the 9 to 5, that's awesome. But are you doing and living something that is helping you enjoy life now? And that's really what the digital nomad type of kind of movement, if you will, has come to really represent. It isn't just, it's not the laptops on the beach and Mai Tais. There may occasionally be there, but there is
Right.
muck, there is mess, right? There is difficulty. I remember even just seeing like my nesting side of me, seeing things I wanted to purchase and be like, oh, this would look so nice in the house. And it's like, I don't have a house though. Like I
Right.
don't live in a place. Like I can't get other things, which I'm sure there's a beauty in that as well. But just little things that you're like, you don't have a set place. Everything is out of your backpack or your suitcase. And at the same time, the trade-off is that I can stop and jump on a motorcycle and go through the mountains or check out an attraction or go to the beach. And I have that work-life balance, and I'm enjoying it now, right? Not some day in the future that
Exactly.
exists.
Well, it's funny that you mentioned that, right? Because I'm currently in Key West, Florida, and I was on a big cross-country motorcycle trip working on the road, with the laptop from coffee shops and friends' houses and stuff. And then the lockdown happened, and I just was visiting a friend down here, and I just stayed. Like, what else am I going to do? I can't really travel anymore. It's just so frowned upon, even if I'm on a motorcycle and totally self-contained. So that idea of being here and kind of making the best of it, it really requires like a really good sense of yourself, right? It requires the discipline necessary to, like you said, work from a laptop at the pool, right? No one wants to do that. Like, if you could think of the times, if you made a list of the places and times that you want to work, pool is usually not one of them, right? So it's this weird dichotomy of people saying, oh, that'd be the perfect thing. I'd be able to do my work, but still enjoy myself. And very rarely does that happen. I know a lot of digital nomads that they have to go to coffee shops. They have to go to isolated places to put the blinders on and force them to focus. So I think that's the reality of it. But to your point of doing it now, as opposed to waiting for some distant future in order to take advantage of life. I used to live here in Key West. I was the captain of a schooner, or this 80-foot 2-masted schooner, Sunset Sailboat. And we would bring on, up to about 50 passengers at a time, and everybody would be drinking and watching the sunset and stuff. It was great. I did that. I did that for a long time. And I would say that just about every night you would have these conversations with people. They would come back to the wheel, you're steering as the captain and stuff, and they would want to know what it's like to steer the boat. And so as they're steering, it was perfect conversation time, and they would talk about how they wished that they could have done this when they were my age. I was 26 at the time. And then we got into their life and the choices that they made. Usually it ended up, the conversation ended up being steered that way. And I would say 99% of them said that they just weren't happy with their choices. And of course they had a couple of wines in them, so they were, much
truth
more
serum. They had the
much
truth
more
serum in
blunt.
them.
Exactly. But at the same time, they're there with their family. On the outset, it looks like they have like a very stable, very nice life, but they would talk in truth about how they felt. And they like, yep, not really happy with my job. I wish I could do something like this. Now, granted, the situation being in Key West on a sailboat, a sunset, like by comparison, everything looks a little bit dismal if you were to compare it to that scene right there. But the fact is that it wasn't just the scene, it was how people described the choices that they'd made. And I had this conversation like for an entire year, every night, with different people, different passengers. That has an effect on you and your mentality as to what's important. You start to say to yourself, man, maybe the majority of people and the things that you hear, the stuff that you're supposed to do, quote unquote, maybe that's not necessarily the right way. And so I have spent a lot of time almost in spite, like, of the way that people do things, trying to do them the opposite, to one, challenge myself to make it work, but two, to just follow my own path and listen to my own gut feeling on how things should be done. And really, it has very rarely led me the wrong way.
Yeah. Yeah, we just had a career coach on not that long ago, and she said something crazy like the percentage of people who report not being happy in their jobs is 90%. And it's such a huge part of our lives, right? Like what you do to make money is a giant percentage of your life, of what you're engaged in and what you do. And for 90% of the people to be unhappy in that because it's what was right on paper, it's its own epidemic. I feel like it's its own, issue. And as you're saying, there's like these people who have done it right in their moment of truth, in their vacations, though vacations that look great on paper, and they are in a lot of ways. They made it to a place where they were able to take their family on vacation to the Florida Keys and go on a boat. I mean, there's some absolutely wonderful things in that. But in the end, it ultimately wasn't exactly what they wanted, and that's I think the first step. So if we steer this towards like any sort of instruction manual of becoming a digital nomad, the first step is, what do you want? Like, what do you actually want to do in life, right? Like what do you want life to look like? Before you worry, like, what would I do and how would I do it? Like, forget all that and just go, what do you want life to look like?
Totally. So
Right?
I 100% agree. Like you have to know that first, even if you ask that, because a lot of people ask that of themselves and maybe they come up with an idea, maybe they don't. But even if it's wrong, you need something to go with. You need a direction at first, because the
Yeah.
act of moving in that direction is it's gonna uncover twists and turns and deviations of that path that really start to bring you to the true joy that you're looking for, right?
Yes.
It's going to
Yes.
pull back those layers. But I feel like people inherently know that, and they say to themselves that path to my pure joy, right, what I really want, is complicated, and it's daunting to start. And so it's just so much easier to just stay the safe route. And so, yeah, and I 100% agree with all of that. It's about knowing yourself, having that
Yeah.
level of self-awareness, and asking yourself what it is that you want. To me, a lot of it, you kind of go back to how you felt as a kid, because when you were a kid, the things that brought you joy, they weren't bombarded by technical logistics and all of these different ideas that you have now grown to compile in your head, saying, oh, well, that's very hard because I need insurance and I need to figure out this paperwork, and I know all of that stuff.
The how was less important.
Yeah, exactly. The how was so much less important. It was just the what it meant to you. And if you're able to return to something like that how and working through all of those issues really become like kind of secondary. You don't really think about it. They don't have as much weight anymore, because you're truly feeling like you're moving in the right direction for you internally. And so, yeah, it's like, as you started your entrepreneurial journey, right? People say, oh, I want to become a digital nomad or an entrepreneur because I want to work my own hours. Okay, well, great. Well, as soon as you do that, you start to find that, yeah, you can work your own hours, but there's a lot of hours that you're going to have to work. It's going to be 12, 16-hour days. You can do that
You
whenever
can pick
you want.
when you want to start them, but there's a lot of them.
And what people I think don't talk about in that is, yes, when they see that I'm working like 12-hour days all the time, 7 days a week, they say to themselves, why do you put yourself through that, right? And the honest answer is that my work is not the same as your work. You feel like you have to go do something, and you're working for something that's completely dissociated with who you are fundamentally as a person, whereas mine isn't that way. I'm creating something that I feel amazing about, and so that 12 hours is way easier for me to do. I don't, it's, if I had to go to my office job, and work for 12 hours a day, 7 days a week, yeah, I would probably want to kill myself. But I, but because it's something of my own creation and my own path, that's what I think a lot of digital nomads start to understand and realize really early on in the game.
Yeah, but there's a lot more in it. It's your own investment into it. It's what it's working for your own dream, and in essence, working for that own dream. And sometimes for people, the dream can be as much as the results, right? We have you have digital nomads who might do something like drop shipping, which is not a product they've created. It's not. It's really just a process. It's not easy. There's no such thing as these quick overnight things that people think with the digital nomad lifestyle. But they can do that because it's not so much what they do, but it's what it provides them, right? They can continue to travel and have this enjoyment. And I always say that jobs should do one or two things. They should either be the thing that you love and you're so invested in it, you just want to do it, or it allows you to do the things that you love. And if your job isn't doing either of those, if it's just paying the bills, if it's just surviving, like, that's not why we're here. We're not here just to survive. That's not what life is about. Like, that's not.
And through all your travels, right, I'm sure that you experience other cultures, guys that look at the American lifestyle and they say, you guys are crazy. Like, you guys are absolutely crazy for thinking, for killing yourselves for these jobs and not having some type of lifestyle balance. And that's why I feel like I'm so fortunate, as I'm sure you do too, to have all of these experiences that are outside the US, so that you start to see, look, people live a completely different way in these other countries, and it's something to emulate.
Yes. Yes.
So,
I have to say, so here in Czech Republic, which isn't like the top of the chain here in Europe, but a standard job, a regular run-of-the-mill basic job comes with, I wish my husband here, but it's either 4 or 5 weeks of vacation. That's like your low end basic worker, 4 or 5 weeks, because they're like, and they're required to take it. So in the US, you can cash out, you can use it for sick days. You are not allowed to do that here. You have to go. They don't care if you stay home. They don't care if you, but you just can't be at work. And and we can take the fluffy side of it and say, it's because they care about mental health, and to some degree, somewhere in the world may. But the truth is you're a better worker for them when you're not there, when you have a break. So even from a selfish end, even from an end of like big business, they still know that you're better for them when you have a freaking break. Like,
seriously. Yeah. They understand, like, just because we want you to work 8 hours a day, 5 days a week with only 2 weeks vacation and expect that you're going to be productive, it doesn't mean that you are. And I feel like a lot of companies now, at least new age tech companies, obviously you're starting to realize this, that to get those creative people, to get the people that really can perform top notch all the time, they need a break. They need a semblance of decompression in some way, shape, or form.
And it goes back to that work-life balance and living it now, not nose to the grindstone, pushing yourself, driving yourself, 1 foot in the grave. So then when you retire, all of a sudden you're going to, and not only all of a sudden will you just start to enjoy life, but I always question, like, will you even know how to? Like, you've been trained for 60 years to just do this and live on the weekend. Like, how do you even know how to transition? And I'm sure you've heard so many people at retirement level, they start to just lose their mind or like just be bored because they actually don't know how to relax and engage and do these things, because it's a long part of your life to just be in a system where you're not enjoying life now. And I think that's the big pull and beauty of this, the digital nomad lifestyle and everything. And so as we've kind of gone into it, talked about a lot of the benefits, some of the myths and things, I would love to just really quick kind of identify, like, if in case you guys have been hearing us and you're like, okay, what the heck, you said digital nomad isn't a job, so what is it? And really it is a term. There's many terms, but the digital nomads are people who are, the actual definition is people who are location independent and use technology to perform their job. They tend to work remotely, telecommuting rather than being physically present at the company office or work for themselves. So a digital nomad can work for a company. There are a lot of remote working jobs. There are people who live in different countries and can travel the world, even as requested by their business, like, okay, we want you to go here for a while, we want you to go there for a while, or the opposite, we don't care where you are, you can just do the job for us wherever you are, right? So you can be employed, like you can have that sense of security and stability with an outside source and live the digital nomad lifestyle, right? And like you were mentioning, these kind of new age tech companies who actually aren't micromanaging. They're like, we don't care when you work, as long as the work is done, right?
Exactly.
So you have that kind of balance of like working for yourself, because you have to have the self-discipline to show up and do the work, but you also are choosing your own hours, you're doing these things. So if you're listening to us and you're listening to this and going, this sounds amazing, but you don't necessarily have to go out and start a business. You don't have to go out and just decide to be a freelancer. There are actual sites and businesses and places where you can specifically look for remote work. Welcome to the age of the internet, guys. Like this
That's
is,
right. That's right.
This is the new listing that is there. So if that sounds like something for you, like there's your first kind of step in the door, right?
Yeah, that's like a dipping your toe in and trying it out. And I feel like I would encourage everybody listening to do something like that, or at least to pursue the opportunities, to see what's out there as far as opportunities.
Yeah, just look, right?
Yeah, exactly. Right. Just check it out. Sites like, if you, I don't know if people use Indeed, but there's so many people now that are looking for remote work on sites like Indeed and job finders like that.
Yeah, even those, and then I think there's specific sites too. And I can't I think I remember last time I had to look for a job, but I know there are like nomadworkers.com or something like that. Don't quote me on
totally.
that, guys, but there is something like that out there where it's specifically for that lifestyle.
Well, so the reason I said Indeed was because typically with those guys, they're looking for remote work, but it's already an established company. And then,
right.
But then you have sites like Upwork and Fiverr and stuff like that, where you, if you want to go the extra step and you want to start like branching off on your own, one, I think that's amazing. Like, I think everybody should do that as well, just because it's such an amazing learning experience. But two, just realize that even if you've never had experience having something on your own, like being responsible for making your own money, the point is that the tech side of things, like the online digital part of the digital nomad experience, it's all just a platform to deliver services, to communicate. But at the end of the day, business is done between people that like each other. Like, it is still very much human to human. Don't forget that. Like you'll see, once you kind of dive into this whole digital nomad world, you'll see, like you said, the drop shippers and all of these amazing, seemingly lucrative opportunities to create cash flow while you're sleeping instantly and turn into a millionaire. And while I don't discount that that's happened every once in a while, right? It's the probability that that's going to happen is so small. And again, not because you're not lucky enough to have that happen, but there is a ridiculous amount of work in the background that you just don't see, that people don't disclose. And and so I would say honestly, the way that I started in all of this was just help people, like figure out how you can help people. And whether that's going on to Facebook groups and looking for people's questions that you feel like you could contribute to and starting to engage in the conversation, great way to start, right?
Yeah.
Because it not only gives you confidence that you can actually help somebody, because that's everyone's biggest fear, is that who am I? Like the whole imposter syndrome thing. Who am I to be the expert and tell people what to do, especially if they're halfway around the world? But then also it starts to reveal things about you. Like, you start to see that you can actually not only do this, but you can address the actual problems that people are having and not the ones that you perceive them to be having. And it just, having conversations like that, and then starting to maybe reach out to somebody and say, hey, like, I'd love to help you in this type of capacity too. Let's give this a shot. I feel like those little baby steps going in are all what leads you down the whole digital nomad like water slide.
Yeah.
And it's honestly just little steps like that, but never forget, this is a person to person thing. The drop shipping idea of you being able to be completely dissociated, but then just check your phone in the morning and be like, oh, I made another $30,000 today, right? That is not going to happen. You just you need to have that human interaction. And so if you're a good person, like, you got a leg up.
Right, right. Yeah, people do business with people they know, like, and trust. And so your human aspect is going to be more important than any technology or platform. And so if you're coming into this like, oh, maybe you feel tech illiterate, um, you need you first, really, and the rest you can be taught, can be learned. And then I love the idea of, if this is something that you're feeling inspired after hearing this to go like, maybe I've always discounted this, like, oh, it's a for them thing, and maybe you're thinking that you could check it out. I love the idea of, like, even just that first, like, maybe you want to work for someone else, go see what kind of jobs are offered, go see what kind of things are out there. There are websites that exist for that. And then if you want to check the other route and go, well, maybe I want to kind of go on my own and either freelance or even start my own business, going to something like Fiverr or Upwork and seeing the things that people pay for will blow you away. There's things like I write hand notes. I need someone, to transcribe them. I need someone to type up my notes. Okay, do you know how to type? Bam, you have a job. You're a freelancer now. Like, people who are editing documents, and not even editing full books, just basic documents. I have a client who actually is, English is not their first language. And so they're writing some things and some blogs, and they just need someone to check that, not grammar, not even like a fancy book editing, just that the things make sense in English, right? Like, just like syntax and different things. And so people who are young, very young, like some even, like the teenage age, are editing these things and making some money here and there because they speak English and they go, oh yeah, this makes sense, this doesn't make sense. These
Exactly, like
things that,
conceptually.
yeah, that
Yeah,
you may not see as your talent. You might not go, well, I'm not a certified editor, I'm not a certified writer. Like, you would be surprised where your talents actually lie. And we actually have a worksheet on our website called Talent Capital, and it helps you go through, like, looking at like, what do your friends say you're good at? Like, maybe you're really good at drinking water. Like, wow, you always drink enough water, and I can never drink enough water. And, you're like, well, that's not a business. And you're like, au contraire, there are people who have, health and water challenges, how to drink enough water in 30 days. And
well,
they're
it's so funny that you mentioned that, right? Because
really,
my sister just introduced me to a guy named Martin Rees, I believe his name is, who is like one of the only, if not the only, water sommelier in the world. So the way that people taste and test wines, he does the exact same thing with water, and showing people the differences between water. Like, it's amazing the kind of stuff that you can do. It's just thinking outside of the box.
yeah. Well, and seeing that it's real, right? Like, just going, if you start to go out there and see, like, wow, people are paying for this thing, well, I kind of do this, and but you won't get there if you just dismiss it. If you just go, that's for someone else, it's too late for me, I have kids, all those different reasons. I'm telling you, I traveled with my husband and my son, a 4-year-old. Well, no, he was 2. So from 2 to 4, my son traveled full time. He has more stamps at his pet. I think he just finished his 33rd flight, before COVID happened. He just finished his 33rd flight, and he just turned 4. So, that there's always a way to make it happen, but how can you imagine it if you've never stepped in to see the possibility?
Totally. And
Yeah.
in that same vein, I would say that the thing that I would suggest that people do, uh, aside from just trying to say yes to something that you probably would have said no to in a perfect, in your world. So say yes to it. So say yes to going and checking out some of those listings on Fiverr, right? Say yes to, to reaching out or participating in a conversation on Facebook that you normally would have shied away from because you say to yourself, well, who am I? Like, I'm not a professional, yada, yada, yada. But I would say more important than that is to do it consistently, right?
Mm-hmm.
To make yourself do that, not just once, not just twice, right? But to really do it for an extended period of time, 2 weeks, a month, right? Little bit every single day. That consistency is going to yield, in my experience, far greater benefits than listening to this podcast, getting all super pumped up and jazzed, inspired, going and checking out a whole bunch of stuff and then forgetting about it in 3 days, right?
Right.
Like that's not how you get to those answers that you're seeking. It's little stuff, little consistencies
Yeah.
every single day. And yeah, I agree. Like just knowing what's out there, even if that's your thing, where you say to yourself, you know what, every single day I'm going to open up my mind and the possibilities of what is out there and what I could potentially do. Or I'm going to reach out to one friend and say, you know, what do you think that I'm good at? I don't know. It's kind of an embarrassing thing to ask people because it seems like you're on some type of, like you're joining a cult or something like that, right? But at the same time, it's amazing how people want to help. And if you say, look, I'm really just trying to get a sense of my own personal talents, and it's really hard to do that when I'm so close to the rock face. You know, I can't step back and really see what it is. So tell me, like, what do you think that is? I mean, you'll be surprised.
You will absolutely be surprised what your friends see as like the thing they think about you or the talent they think and they associate you with. Like it is actually, I think this is a great practice, not just for opening up this potential of like a digital nomad opportunity in your life, but honestly, just in self-development and self-growth, even with your connection in your friendship or with your family, to actually get an idea of how they see you. One of the things I would add to that is even asking how they would describe you, because it also gives you like, wow, you're really compassionate, or you're really this, and you're like, wow, like 4 people said compassionate. Maybe this is something I can talk about. Maybe this is something that actually is that I can even teach or show others how to do. So asking them how they describe you. I had one, I actually did this 2 years ago. I emailed all my friends and I said, I need you to tell me what you think my biggest strengths are, biggest weaknesses, wasn't fun, and how you would describe me. And there was all kinds of things I got back, but one really surprised me. I had one friend who's like, "You're singing," and I was like, if you guys, I don't run around singing, and so, but I mean, if I'm with friends, I mean, whatever, we'd have some sing-alongs. I play guitar, so, but I was like, that's the thing you would like. That would just blew my mind. And I mean, she was a very close friend that I knew, and I just would never think that that was the thing that she would associate with me, you know. And of course I didn't run and decide to make a singing career, but it was just really like the surprise. You're like, wow, okay,
Yeah,
like,
it's refreshing. It's totally refreshing, and it can be very validating. You
yeah,
know, those little deep dark secrets that you have where you kind of wish that you could do X, Y, and Z. When somebody mentions that externally, right, and say, "Yeah, I love it when you do this one thing," you say to yourself, "Oh man, that's people are taking notice. Like I can make
yeah.
that real instead of just
Mhm.
keeping it in all the time." It's like, I don't know if anybody listening has ever tried to put like 2 books up to their head like this, right alongside of their head, and then speak, but your voice sounds different when you do that.
Huh.
And actually, the way, if you ever to do that, the way that you are hearing your voice when you got your hands or these books or something is the way that people hear you, but it's different than the way that you hear yourself because of the way
Right.
that sound resonates inside your face and all that stuff, right? But it's the same deal, right? What you're projecting into the world, what you have done, your accomplishments, what you think is important, right? How you are viewed by the world is potentially different than how you view yourself. There's a difference there, and the only way that you'll ever find that difference out is to ask people, get their opinions on it. And I can tell you that once you start to do that, you'll start to believe and see that this digital nomad thing, for all of its craziness and all of the things that you got to go through and hoops that you got to jump through to make it happen, the lifestyle is possible, and you'll have the path to get there. You'll start to
Yeah.
understand that the path will reveal itself, and then it's just a question of whether or not you want to walk down it.
Right. Yes. Yes. Well, so to kind of recap where we've gone through, right? We've talked about what digital nomad really is. I mean, it's so broad. I mean, it's really, there's so many different versions of it, but essentially the nitty gritty is that you're working and you're remote. Like, I think the one thing that's clear in that word is the nomadic part. Like you're not, you didn't just move. Like you're actually kind of continually moving and traveling, right? It's the difference between becoming an expat somewhere and kind of nomadic lifestyle, like moving from place to place. Even if you're there, there's a movement called slow travel where people go and stay places for like 6 months to a year at a time and then move. But there's always kind of a constant movement. But ultimately, digital nomad, it's not a job, it's a description of a lifestyle that involves some sort of work that tends to be online or remote, right? We've talked about the benefits, which, I mean, I think we could go into that a whole lot more, but ultimately it's that work-life balance. It's that enjoying life now. It's that adventure. It's the, I'm not going to wait until I'm retired. It's the live life now, right? Not waiting till someday and just going for it, diving in. Seeing places, going, not waiting till you're 65 and, going to do the crazy, zip lines or whatever, are offered in the different places you might visit. And then we also talked about the downsides, right? Like, you are always on the go. You are always adjusting. You may be very well sitting at a beautiful pool in a beautiful location working.
Yeah. But, and to be honest, because I want to reiterate this, the downsides, at least for me, keep you sharp.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's very easy to have a 9-to-5 job and just get soft, right?
Mm-hmm.
Just get complacent. And so the downsides, the upside to those downsides is that they will keep you sharp, they will keep you creative, they will keep you focused, right? And you'll find that you just feel better, like you feel more capable in that capacity.
Yeah. No, I love that. There's an upside to those downsides. But it can be chaotic. It can be wild. And there's, like you said in the beginning, it's not that this lifestyle takes you from it. It's just choosing which level kind of chaos you want. Being caught in a monsoon versus being caught in traffic on the 405. Which one you want.
Yeah, exactly.
They both have their sides. So we talked about that. We talked about, how do you really do it? And essentially, because it's not a specific job, it's not underwater crocheting, like there's not an exact set of rules, but the first step is to really see what's out there. Convince yourself that it actually is very possible. And one easy step of doing that is just seeing even what's available on a conventional level. Like we said, Indeed, going to, or even looking on the freelancer site, seeing what people are being paid for, taking stock of your talents. Like, what actually am I good at besides what it's on a resume, right? Like, it doesn't matter. Yes, I'm, know Excel, but I also know different tastes of water, or I know how to, boil an egg really well. So looking at that. And then I would say the one thing we haven't talked about, that once you kind of see that, the fun part is like, well, where do you want to go? Right? Like, what are the places you wanted to travel, you wanted to see? And like, what does it take to get there? And start to get excited about that, those opportunities, and learning the process. There's all kinds, and just starting to get familiar with how that works. Oh, this visa over here costs this much, or it's free, or this one gives me 60 days, and this one gives me 6 months, and this one gives me 2 weeks. Like, you're starting to get to learn all that stuff and seeing ticket prices. Like, I can start to really make it real. And that's really exciting. Like I mentioned before, Josh and I both motorcycled through northern India, just because we could, and we were there for whatever had led us there, and not together. This was completely separate things that we've done.
That's right. Yeah, I've met I can't even count on one hand, like the number of people that I've met that have even been to India, let alone traveled on a motorcycle. So few and far between. So yeah, it was an incredible coincidence.
And specifically through northern India, I was like, that is so crazy. I was like, did I write that? What was that post? So that's amazing.
Yeah.
So getting to do that stuff and then starting to make it real, like, because then that starts to put it in perspective. Like, this is what I could do. This is where I would want to go. I found out that it costs this much to go, or this is what visa I would need. Housing only costs this much. Like, you start to get the real components, because again, like, I've had the people who go, oh, I love seeing your posts, I live vicariously through you. and I just don't live vicariously through me. Like, I didn't do anything magical. I just went and
Yeah.
found out what it took, like, if you
Yep.
want a Ferrari, how much does a Ferrari cost? How much would you need to make to pay off that Ferrari? Like, just start making it real. Just start knowing what it really takes. And all of a sudden you can make decisions if you're going to do it or not. But of course you can't even fathom it if you know nothing about it. Right. And that's why we're here today.
Exactly. I 100% agree. Got to make it concrete in some way,
Yeah.
shape, or form. So at least you know which direction that you're going in.
Yes, and surround yourself with others. Like, there are groups, like you were saying, there's groups even just to see what people are doing, but there's nomadic groups, there's digital nomad groups. There is a group called, for those families out there, there's a group called World Schooling, which are families who to travel just like this. It's not just a millennial and a Gen Z thing. There are families, I've seen families, and I kid you not, with like 9 kids who are traveling. And there's people who are doing the RV life. There's people who are camping. There's people who are working on farms with their family. There's people who are, and they're schooling their kids, all the different ages. And there's whole pods all around the world who are doing this. So if you're like, oh, this works, but it just works for, Josh as a tech guy, or it just works for, this single person or whatever, there's a version out there, like, for everyone. There's house sitting. I mean, there's
Yeah.
just so many different ways that you can make this tangible, that you can bring in income, and that you can just do life on your own terms. So
I agree.
you got to get out there and see. So I would say those are like the main points that we really came through there, right? We showed you what it was, benefits, the downsides, the how to do it, the where to go. The next step is just, do you really want it?
Yeah.
You know?
Do you really? And I want to add too, because as we were talking about the motorcycle thing, I think it's a great parallel to draw. One of the things that I learned, and maybe you did too, in Northern India doing this motorcycle thing, is that whenever you're riding a motorcycle, you go, the motorcycle goes where you look.
Yes.
Right. So, and I think that's a
Love that.
great, and in India in particular, because everyone's trying to kill you in India, right? You got
Monkeys on the road.
rickshaws and monkeys and people, like buses that'll run you off, and like everything. So you got that. But the reason that I say that is because whatever you find, dear listener, whatever you end up finding is your thing, right? Put the blinders on and move forward. It's a great, you can't move forward looking sideways. If you're constantly comparing yourself, you will go where you're looking. Yeah. So if you're looking sideways, if you're comparing yourself to other people, you have no idea what their journey is. You have no idea how long they've been working at this, right? It's an unfair comparison anyway. So just figure it out, what it is that you want to do, and move forward with it. Keep those blinders on.
Take the next step. If you're trying to find the perfect plan, it's not going to work out. And you don't have the perfect plan now. Whatever it is that you're doing or living or church, there's no perfect plan. So you just find that next step and move, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. I love the motorcycle analogy. That is awesome. Well, this has been so cool. I hope you guys have been inspired by this. I hope you see that this is a very real, tangible thing. It's not that pipe dream. It's not for a certain type of people. One of the things I know that you live by is the work teaches you the work.
I love that quote. My favorite quote.
It's amazing. And it is, like, it's just, what am I going to do? Well, do the work. But you do the work and you're going to start to learn what work you need to do and what's going to come, right? That's just the same line of just getting started. So, and I know some of the points that you brought up as well were, like in talks that we've had before, is like, it doesn't matter how hard you prepare, things will still go wrong, and that's okay. I know a big part too is like, what gets measured gets improved. So if you're paying attention to what you're doing, and as you're moving along and you want to live this lifestyle, start to really track what you're doing and look at how things are working out for you to see what's going to work best.
Yep.
And the other thing you said was, like, faith is only difficult until the moment you see it in action. Right?
Yeah. And then exactly, like, it's only difficult to believe that something can happen until you actually see it with your own eyes. And then you say to yourself, man, why did I wait so long? You listen. Yeah. I challenge anybody to listen to any of these entrepreneurial podcasts and get a sense of where people are. If the question is ever asked, hey, what's your biggest regret? Like, what do you wish you would have done differently had you been able to start over when you're 20 years old? The majority of people say, I wouldn't have waited as long.
Right.
I wouldn't have waited.
Right.
Because it's true. Like, it's only difficult until you see that it's real for you. and then you say to yourself, man, like it was my own perception of how hard it was going to be. It wasn't how hard it actually is, like in reality. So yeah.
Right. Yes, I love it. Well, before my last question, can you please tell everyone where they can find you and what you have going on?
Sure. Yeah. So, like you mentioned, I have a show called Fire Builders Live. I host that 6 days a week, Monday through Friday. I also, or Monday through Saturday. See, I can't even keep track of weeks and the weekdays. It doesn't even, so just about every single day. And then I have a software called firebuilders.io. Accountability. It's all about scaling personal accountability for coaches to keep people on track to help them hit their goals. So that's exciting. You can always reach me at josh@firebuilders.io. They can just send me an email. Otherwise, I'm also on Instagram for like a more personal sort of blog thing, and all the adventures and the whole digital nomad highlight reel kind of stuff is all on Instagram. Saltwater CEO is the Instagram handle for that. But really, yeah, just shoot me an email, or I'm on Facebook. I have a site called joshuakoerpel.com. So there's a lot of different ways you can find me, but any one of those will work.
Otherwise, you can go through that. And I know if they go to the firebuilders.io, which is the new software that's coming out, it's like an accountability thing, as we mentioned, that they can actually test it out and even try to hit a goal in like 7 days. You'll do like an accountability thing. They just go and sign up for that, right?
Yeah, exactly. Like the way that I've wanted to exemplify what the software did was, I said to myself, well, why not just throw them through a 7-day accountability course where all of it's coming from me? So it'll give you a sense of how the whole program works. And then you would just extend that idea to all of the accountability and all of the content and the voice and the messaging would actually come from the coach itself and not, Josh. But you do have an opportunity to try it. It's awesome.
Yeah.
It has worked. I've put hundreds and hundreds of people through it. I built it for my mom originally, so I know that it works, because honestly, if it works for your own mom, it's going to work for anybody.
That is amazing. People are
So
going to have
yeah.
all these people's moms on there now.
Yeah,
Mom, come check this
totally.
out. Yeah, so
Totally.
you guys will have the link to that below as well. So go in there and check that out and try that process out. I've done it myself. It was really cool. You can just pick like one task that you really want to focus on, and he's going to work with that accountability. And you see what it's like and how you can use that in your own business, your own maybe new freelance ideas or things that you want to try. So yeah, that's a great opportunity. So thank you so much. And so for our last question, what is one thing out of all these things we talked about, what is one thing, if someone really wants to start making a step in this direction, that they can do right now? Like not waiting, don't need equipment, don't need, just what can they do to get started moving on in this path?
Yeah, so this is a great question, right? If it was me, the one thing, if I was going to start and I was going to do one thing, we talked a little bit about the like saying yes to just anything during the day. But now that I replay that in my head, that's also a little bit too broad. So I would say the one thing that you could do right now, Rick, right after this podcast, is just pull out a pen and paper or open up a Google Doc or something and start listing the things that you feel that you're good at. Like that's it. That's all because chances are that 1, 2, 3 of those things are a legitimate business opportunity and a legitimate opportunity to become a digital nomad if that's what you want to end up doing, right? Again, don't preoccupy yourself with how it's going to happen, right? Just start listing some of the things that you're good at so that you have an idea, you can articulate what those are. Because I guarantee you that ability to articulate those things will be so beneficial for you in the future. So I would say just do that today, and then and you will have
just see
taken
where that
the first
goes,
step.
right? We have tons of other tips and that we've already talked about. So you get started with that, you can see what that can open up. And again, I would also add to that, like, don't leave that list. Get out of resume mode with that list. Because what you're good at, it doesn't have to be the certifications or the things. You can be good at explaining complicated things, right? There isn't a certification for that. But maybe you're like, I can take really complicated things and explain them really easy. I'm really good at boiling, hard-boiled eggs. I'm really good. And maybe even ask yourself, what are challenges that you've overcome? Because sometimes there's something in that. Maybe you've, fixed an injury that you had, you did it with that, or maybe you were really diligent about losing some weight or something like that. Like, again, no one's asking you to be a trainer, but things you're good at, be broad, be
Yep.
really open to what that is defined by that, I would say. That's awesome. I love that.
Yeah. Hell yeah. Yep.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Josh, for being here. Are there any last thoughts or anything you want to share with the listeners before we wrap up?
Yeah, well, one, I just appreciate everybody's time. It's been an honor to be here to talk about this stuff. I love talking about it. Just know that, again, it has nothing to do with your previous experience. It doesn't. It has everything to do with how you approach life from this moment forward. And
Yes.
if you can keep an open mind and start to hang around people that are doing the same thing for inspiration, you're going to go far. Like, you're absolutely going to go far. Don't worry about all the tactical stuff. You'll be able to learn that later, but just take the first steps in connecting with people and recognizing who you are and what you're good at. And you'll be able to achieve that work-life balance and like be a true like ninja digital nomad,
Yes. I love it. Awesome. Well, again, thank you so much, guys. It's time, right? It's time to move through, to live the life that you want. So Josh, again, thank you so much for being here. And you guys make sure to get in touch with him at Josh Koerpel on Facebook and at Saltwater CEO on Instagram. Be inspired. He has, like you said, all kinds of travel, fun stuff on there. And then his other businesses, there's lots of tools that you can use as you're going on this journey in whatever area that may be, and getting support for your own adventures and your ventures. So as always, you can connect with us at My Design Life Show and at Tanyamfk on Facebook and Instagram, and learn more about our courses, workshops, and coaching to grow your business and create a life that you love at tanyamfk.com. So if you like this episode, make sure to subscribe and follow by clicking that button. And you can be notified when our next episode is up by tapping that bell. So remember, your someday starts today. Make it the best. I'm Tanyamfk, and I'll see you next time. Thanks for joining us. You can catch us every week at 1 p.m. EST live on the My Design Life Show Facebook page and on YouTube at the Tanyamfk channel. See how the challenges go by following us on Facebook and Instagram at My Design Life Show and at Tanyamfk. Do you have a method, tip, or hack you'd like to share or explore? Submit to be a guest or suggest a topic by visiting mydesignlife.show.